This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge.
Hi, friends. Welcome to this week's Pod. This show for the week of August 18th, 2025. And if you are watching, there's another familiar face on your screen, Drew, the Disney Dude. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello, everyone. I am happy to be back. It's been too long since we've talked. Too long.
Yet we've seen each other in person multiple times in the last couple of months. However, we're here to talk about Destination D23, some construction updates. You're the man on the the man on the ground with all the different updates. I was going to say eye in the sky, but that's bio-reconstructed. First, Phil, I think we want to go over a topic before we hit Destination D23, since we have Drew here, and we want to talk about a lot of your Imagineering work. You had a really, really cool segments on your YouTube channel. But first, Drew, let's go over what are you working on? What are you doing in the parks these days? How have you been?
I've been hanging in there. I feel like there's so much happening right now that it's kind of like surreal for me to watch all these projects develop, because I went from watching, Splash to Tiana's. That was just one rethemed ride, and now we're seeing a whole land and Monsters Inc. land and villains and cars, and I'm like, whoa, that was quick. But
you just had to hang out in one spot. Now you got to
jump around.
Yeah, it's funny because
different parks and stuff.
Exactly, and it's funny because I've been kind of comparing it to when I was documenting Tiana's construction. I was standing on the bridge outside of Tom Sawyer Island in the Rosa America looking at Tiana's. Now I'm at that bridge looking in the opposite direction, where you have Big Thunder Mountain, Tom Sawyer Island about to be demolished, river being filled in. It's crazy because it's kind of switched sides, but I'm ready. It'll be a fun 4 years ahead.
Have you found a spot in which you want to watch and document the changes to Rivers of America?
I honestly think it's going to be from Big Thunder Mountain's little overlook once it reopens, because that whole area where you can kind of watch the trains whiz by, I think that's high enough. But if they put the walls up, and they can put higher walls if they really want to. The typical walls are probably around 8 to 10 feet. If they wanted to make them a foot higher so no one can see over, they could. I don't know if there's really going to be a great spot to see anything, quite honestly, rather than just, like you said earlier, waiting for bio-reconstruction pictures to drop when you can see the entire 15-acre space in one picture.
Now I'm trying to think, is there a spot in the Big Thunder queue where you can get a pretty good view? Because sometimes it steers away from it. You're facing Splash most of the time, or the ride itself. But there might be a spot where you can sit there. I think it's right when you make the turn where you have all those hands-on things that the kids spin and stuff like that. There might be a spot there. How long do you think you could? How long do you think you stayed in the queue before somebody says, please move on, if you're just kind of the camera? I don't know.
Go around.
It's a good point, because I actually watched them install that new fence that kind of blocks the backstage areas from Tiana's, where they have that crop garden now. You could see that from the queue of Big Thunder. I don't know. I feel like if I really wanted to document a time-lapse video or get some actual content from there, I'd probably just go rope drop. But at the same time, Big Thunder Mountain's going to be very popular rope drop with a new track and refreshed trains and everything. So maybe a park closing, but then it's too dark to see anything. So good question. I'll have to test that next spring or summer.
Do you think they're going to... This is completely off track now from our show notes. Do you think Big Thunder will be an 8:30 opening or a 9 o'clock opening once it goes live? Because it's never been, right? Frontier Lane's always been closed at 8:30 at early entry. I
think it'll be 9 still. I think it'll go to 8:30 probably in 2029 once we have all the new stuff opening, because you can't keep that side of the park closed. It's going to be... Everyone's going to be running there to see Lightning McQueen or Maleficent.
Sure. That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. All right, Phil, you wanted to talk about the golden age of Imagineering, as Drew has termed it, so why don't you lead the way on that discussion?
Yeah, I thought I'd just bring up that the most recent video, Drew, you put out, which was about what you're calling it. You're seeing this now as a new golden age of Walt Disney Imagineering. I think we all agree there's some pockets of the internet that might disagree with that.
Many.
Yes. But I thought maybe we could just touch on kind of hit kind of some of the key takeaways you have. Why do you feel that way? And then also, what do you think the implications of this are? For the average park goer, what does this mean if it truly is a new golden age of Imagineering?
Yeah, I think one of my biggest takeaways last year at D23 was Josh D'Amaro walking out on stage and starting that presentation with, "This is all in active development. We are doing all of this," and kind of acknowledging how we were speculating at that time before that presentation on what could be announced. which was rare to kind of hear that Disney has, paid attention to what's all the talk online, right? Like they see everything regardless of if it's positive or negative. I think now more than ever, Disney's leadership has a really strong pulse on the online scene. And also just the fact that, like I talked about in my video, how Josh was why Bruce Vaughn has come back to Imagineering, but like no one wants to talk about that. And that was confirmed by Bruce Vaughn on stage back in 2023 when they were talking about the Tropical Americas for the first time. He said, "Josh, thank you for the opportunity," which it was like a one-liner, went really quick, but no one's reading into the fact that he was thanking Josh for him coming back and leading Imagineering, right? I've always kind of said that the biggest things can be the smallest things that are highlighted within the community. Everyone's always focused on the future, which, don't get me wrong, I am. That's all I post about is news and new projects and breaking things and updates. But at the same time, like behind the scenes, when I'm just as a fan, because that's what I grew up on, Disney, and I was a fan of the parks before I ever started creating, is what Disney is talking about that no one is. And there are so many things, even at that D23 presentation last year, that no one really picked up on, like the fact that as you walk up to the casita in the Tropical Americas, the door's going to be opening and the shingles are going to be moving and the house is alive. Like they're putting a ton of work into making the house alive before you even go into the queue for the ride you're going to be experiencing, and little things like that. But I think my biggest thing that really made me want to make that video was Bruce Vaughn coming back, and also the fact that Josh D'Amaro is behind these things that is now allowing Bruce Vaughn to make those decisions. Like, for example, Lou Mongello recently had a podcast with Bruce Vaughn, and I posted about it because, Bruce kind of confirmed again that Josh was why he came back and why they're bringing back these Imagineers as advisors and mentors to the Imagineers.
Well, that's another point I wanted to bring up. That's like, it just further like strengthens your point from like a year ago that they're bringing all, like, because people probably forget or don't realize the impact the pandemic and about a year or two before that, as they were maybe transitioning to Florida with WDI or more over there, that there was a lot of cultural loss or tribal knowledge, I guess, right?
Absolutely.
Like how things are done, right? And what you're seeing is all these projects starting to ramp up, like you said, they're bringing back some of these, old guard that were there in the 80s and 90s and so forth. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of underline that as you mentioned it, because that's a huge point that people are forgetting about. Like they just want to blindly yell at everybody, but like there's effort and money being spent in talent for sure.
Yeah, and it's also kind of fascinating to me when we kind of get those confirmations of leadership having the negative impact, like Bob Chapek. I think at that point, there was some rumors about it and there was speculation. But when these Imagineers are only willing to come back to Imagineering as mentors and advisors under Josh and Bruce, I think that also speaks volumes, even if it's not being quite literally said. It's an indirect impact, and it's an indirect thing being said without actually saying it. So when I'm listening to this interview with Lou Mongello and Bruce Vaughn is talking about, oh yeah, I just brought back the Illusioneering Lab. And you have Daniel Joseph on Walt Disney Imagineering's YouTube channel talking about illusions. Daniel Joseph's one of the most legendary illusionists of all time, and he's doing a YouTube video. So not only is Bruce Vaughn bringing back the Illusions Lab, now Imagineering's social team, which is doing very personal content recently, is highlighting that. But at the time, we didn't know why. 2 months later, it's then revealed. So all these puzzle pieces come together. And honestly, I think a big part of the reason why I am kind of good at what I do, I could say, is just the fact that I'm able to follow these things so closely. Not everyone can follow them closely because of their lives and they're busy, or just the fact that they don't know where to look. The fact that I'm able to do those things allows me to put those pieces together, which is a big part of why I want to highlight them so much. Like when I was listening to that interview with Lou, I was writing notes of what do I need to post on Twitter so people are made aware of this, while also crediting him for his podcast. Like he's been doing this for 20 years. Like that's his podcast. But I really wanted to highlight those things.
So you're saying that before somebody talks vehemently or with a strong passion on the internet, you should probably understand what you're talking about before you kind of spout things out. Which I think we'll talk about the public in the future. But what do you think a lot of these implications are? Like Phil said at the beginning, like how is the average park goer, in your opinion, going to see this? And is it immediately going to be impacted in all the new stuff, or are we going to start seeing like little things here and there before like, Tropical Americas opens in Piston Peak and, whatever Villains Land's going to be?
I honestly think we're starting to kind of see it. I feel like there's a mix between operations doing better things like Cool Kids Summer. In my opinion, Cool Kids Summer is like one of the best things that's ever happened to Walt Disney World.
I could have a 40-minute conversation about Cool Kids Summer.
Yeah.
Like I loved it I mean, we're watching some videos this morning from just like we snapped, and it's just like characters all over the place. My kids saw Pocahontas walking into Animal Kingdom in the entryway, and she spent 5 minutes just like bringing them along the trail, looking at plants and animals.
It's so good. It's so
amazing.
And
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I fully agree, and that's why I'm glad I mentioned it, because like you guys have kids that would actually connect to these things, whereas I don't have a wife and kids yet. So I'm kind of just like, how could this? I'm kind of taking an objective look at it, but you guys kind of are confirming my thoughts. So I think we're seeing decisions at the park from an operational standpoint because of good leadership right now. But when it comes to Imagineering specifically, to answer your question, I think it's really going to start happening next year in 2026. I think Hollywood Studios, like no one expected Hollywood Studios to have so much happening next year alone, let alone what we're going to be seeing in Magic Kingdom with Buzz Lightyear and Big Thunder Mountain. Like there's so many things happening next year that are just quality of life upgrades for the general family to enjoy. And then you have those things for the diehard parks fans, like the Muppets taking over Rock and Roller Coaster or the magic of Disney Animation and Hollywood Studios. But those little things that aren't necessarily the groundbreaking lands like Villains Land, 4 years from now, the fact that they're still putting time and money into updating Big Thunder Mountain, Buzz Lightyear, and Animation Courtyard into things that the general family will directly benefit from, those are things happening quickly. And those are things that are going to give longevity and lifespan to these attractions for the next 20 years, which is going to be millions of people impacted, like the general family. So yeah, I really think next year we're going to start seeing things kick into overdrive from construction on these projects to just things opening.
I mean, just if you take all the projects, Monsters, Animation Courtyard, Piston Peak, Tropical Americas, Villains Land, whether it's work or behind the scenes kind of design work, that's like, I mean, I'm throwing a random number out here, but that's like 70% of like building a brand new fifth gate, essentially. Because you've got like 3 or 4 lands, you've got all this other infrastructure going on, but it's spread across 4 different parks, which I think is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you on how it impacts the average park goer. Because if you tie in operations that are given more money to actually make the parks live and breathe and feel different every single time you go into them, especially on a day-to-day basis, like a character may be there or a different one. Again, I saw Flynn Rider and Rapunzel like playing with like 4 or 5-year-old kids. Like they had like 6 of them all in like a Ring Around the Rosie type of game they were playing. I'm like, when do you ever see something like this before?
Yeah.
So I just hope that they continue to do that throughout outside of Cool Kids Summer, because I think they're getting rave reviews.
I agree
about it. I want to go. Actually, let me ask you one question before we talk about some of the younger Imagineers that we're seeing. If there's constantly, not that you don't really get engaged in these battles online on forums or on
I refuse to.
That you shouldn't, right? But like if you have somebody that just wants to push back on somebody say WDI is never like it's not as good as it used to be, or kind of poo-pooing everything that they're doing, what is like one concrete example showing that WDI still quote unquote has it? They have the imagination and creativity, that's a project that they could see that's either live or like almost live, like the stuff that's going on in Paris. Would you have one example that you like to throw up?
I mean, most recently, I think there's been talk about, GM funded, Test Track, but there was a ton of Imagineering talent on Test Track. And like, yes, it's a reimagined attraction, but that was a perfect balance, I think, of acknowledging the diehard fans with how many Epcot Easter eggs there are in that attraction, while also making it a quality of life upgrade to where it's just a fun ride for the general family. I really do look at like the magic of Disney Animation coming back to Hollywood Studios is my big one. And again, I know it's a reimagined space, but that park was born on being a studio with animation, and someone realized, hey, that we need to have a return to form here. But it's not just a return to form. You're actually leaning into the technology, like what we saw in Once Upon a Studio with those portraits coming alive. And there are new things that are going to make it stand on its own, also with the Little Mermaid next door and that new Disney Junior show. And also, I just think the word ambition is a big thing that Imagineering is really pushing for right now. Like they keep talking about how Villains Land, I know Villains Land is 4 years out and we really don't know anything about it, which we'll talk about a little bit later in our D23 discussion. But just the fact that they keep talking about how Villains Land is going to be unlike anything they've ever done before, and it's going to be incredibly twisted on a grand scale, 2 major e-ticket rides, like everything that we're seeing right now that's being green-lit, in a sense, is what we've been asking for. Like people have been talking about the Monsters Inc. coaster for 17 years. Like Scott Gusson has poked fun about how everyone has been wanting it and how it shocked us and we finally got it. And then we've been wanting Villains Land, right? The general family loves Cars. It's one of Disney's most profitable franchises. So I think just something that I look at is what has been greenlit, what has the board approved, what is being funded right now, where is the money being committed to, and a lot of that are things that are going to live on for the next 3 decades, if not longer. I think
easily.
a lot of these are going to be legacy projects. So I feel like the response to that from some of these people would be, well, I'll believe it when I see it. Disney's going to go bankrupt. It's going to open in 2033. I don't know. I feel like a lot of these people are just closed-minded and they don't want to accept that there is a shift and the ship is going in the right direction. The train has switched tracks. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of this narrative that is constantly fueled by this bickering and arguing back and forth. Whereas I understand that there's things that still aren't turning out great. Like personally, I don't like how the Walt Disney animatronic turned out. I have no problem saying that. I haven't seen it in person, so I can't review it. But my first reaction to watching that video when Walt was revealed was, oh, not wow. So like they're never going to get anything perfect, but I'm also not going to ignore all of the wins, from the money being spent to even recent things like Test Track in the next year, all the things we have happening, Cool Kids Summer. I think all of those things add up when you really put it together in a giant puzzle.
And I know you mentioned this on the podcast, but one thing that you commented on is that everything seems to be an original creation versus like under Chapek that was like design once, build twice.
Yep.
Whereas they're not just taking Radiator Springs and putting that in the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
They're creating a national park setting and designing a ride that fits into that. And yes, there's the IP mandate, so it's going to have an IP attached to it.
Yep.
But it's something that should feel a lot more natural in the space. So I think that's also a kind of
100% agreed.
Of that type of thing too.
Yeah, if not to cut you off, Jason, but if there's one statistic that I could ask Walt Disney Imagineering right now, like for them to give me to post and share, is how many billions of dollars extra are being spent from all the research and development on 14 original projects compared to cloning some of them at Disneyland, Walt Disney World, Paris, Hong Kong, Shanghai, wherever it might be. Because there are things that could be cloned right now, but they're not. They went an original route, and I think that, again, stems from Josh D'Amaro bringing back Bruce Vaughn and bringing his expertise to the table and saying, hey, if we're going to have an IP mandate, well, we need to make this original as possible. And that's, like you said, Phil, with a national park in the middle of Magic Kingdom or an original village in the tropical Americas, people wanting originality, well, that's the most original you're ever going to get in this age of Disney IP. And even someone brought up a really, really good point on my YouTube video, which I've never even thought of myself. I can't take any credit for it. But Sleeping Beauty Castle, like that was Walt Disney's way of promoting Sleeping Beauty back in the 50s. Disney didn't have that. Disney didn't have that catalog of IP back then. So would Walt be doing the same thing now because they have all of this IP? Who knows? Something to think about.
I think Walt would be doing it more every time a major movie came out. There'd be like major IP in the parks. I mean, now we're getting into the IP, original versus Disney IP discussion. I don't think it's an IP mandate that, it does. To me, it doesn't matter if it's WDI that comes up with the IP or Disney Animation Studios that comes up with the IP. It's still Disney making new stories.
Agreed.
I don't understand the whole thing where it has to be original. Everything would be fine. I just want a fun attraction that my kids have fun in, and that's it. That's
agreed.
Phil, what did you want to say about social media?
Yeah, just the last thing that I thought you commented on was that you have seen a shift from the focusing of the Imagineers more into the public eye from a corporate to a personal sense. And I've really noticed that too with a lot of the videos and the Imagineering type shows that have been, behind the attraction type things that have been on Disney Plus. And it kind of jumps out at me that there's a lot of Imagineers now that we don't really know them. Whereas if you thought, in the past, everyone could name, like the Bob Gurrs and the Raleigh Crumps all the way to the Joe Rohdes and Tony Baxters and stuff. And I don't know if a lot of the average Disney guest could name 6 current Imagineers, like I'm sure like you can and the hardcore people can, but they're not like famous or whatever for like, and I think it's the more you make it personal and you say, oh, this person is designing this ride. I mean, I guess they were doing it with Charita Carter with Bayou Adventure and stuff like that. But, the more they can do that people like, there is a person designing this attraction. I think that'll go a long way. And so that was one other thing I just wanted to bring up that you brought up in that video that I thought was good.
I 100% agree. Honestly, I didn't even think about it from the sense of getting to know these Imagineers more on a project by project basis. That's a really good point. My thought process has kind of just been more of like a general thing of just highlighting these people at all, because when they're working on these projects for like 3-4 years from the blue sky phase to building to opening day, I feel like a lot of the time we see them in the parks is on opening day, like at the very end of when they're moving on to the next thing. and you'll see them, waving to people at the exit, cheering them on, like seeing the first riders ever, making those memories for them, and seeing people's reactions. But like that's about it. But if you really take people along those journeys with, we call it Imagineering, from concept development to construction to opening, and even just like the conscious of them saying, hey, we really need to highlight these people to make this on a more connected level from our fan base to what's happening. It's everything I've ever wanted as a content creator, actually learning about the people making these projects, because the general family is going to walk into Animal Kingdom in 2027 and not give two craps about who worked on the ride. They're just going to go have fun and say, oh, we'd Kanto ride. I want to know, why is this here? Like, why is that animatronic placed there? Who programmed that animatronic? Who built it? Like, I want to know everything and how this entire puzzle came together over a 4-year period. And now we're kind of seeing that. And I think it's just going to expand even more. And even to the point where like Disney's PR leadership is inviting like general creators in like the tech space, for example, like Mark Rober or even other people, just to go to Imagineering to introduce that to a general audience, which will probably make kids want to become Imagineers one day, just because of leadership taking that risk to bring them into Imagineering. So it runs even deeper and further outside of our little echo chamber.
I hope that Disney continues making like Behind the Attraction, like on Disney Plus. To me, that's like the most amazing show in the world. I love watching those things. And when they were launching Tiana's, they did the same thing. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. You got a kind of chance to like see the whiteboards, the animatronics being worked on. I love that content, and I think Disney needs to do more of it. And I think they are. I think once Piston Peak and Tropical America starts getting within, I don't know, 8 months or so to going live, I think we'll see a lot of behind the scenes stuff. That's stuff that's going on right now that they're going to save for like 2 years from now to launch it. All right, let's get on to Destination D23. There was a schedule release. Phil, I think you should steer this since you are going to this, and I'll sit here and I'll comment.
Yeah, so obviously this is something everyone's been waiting for that's attending or even just hoping to follow along from home. And they came out with the detailed schedule. And the first thing, obviously, that everyone noticed was that there was no dedicated parks panel. So a lot of the people that were predicting, here's what's going to be announced at the parks panel, there is no parks panel. So I think then everybody recalibrated and we got some more details. Even they have like a write-up for each session. And I think specifically was highlighted in the first session on Sunday, which is about Disney villains. It talks about like how the villains are in the parks and coming to the parks. So there's going to most likely be some information there. But Drew, what about you? What was your first reaction when you saw this announcement and you were kind of going through the different panels? And I don't know if some jumped out at you or were you just mostly focusing on that there was no parks panel?
Yeah, I'm still extremely disappointed in this strategy that they've taken for just D23, even when we're recording this. I think there's something powerful in the fact that Josh D'Amaro on stage making announcements in a row, rather than scattering announcements through Disney Parks blog posts and social media posts and media events. I think there's something very powerful about Josh doing an onslaught of announcements for an hour plus, really saying, yeah, we're doing this. And I'm kind of shocked in the sense that they're not, when he's trying to become Disney's next CEO. Like, I feel like this just could have been another major win for him to come out and drop the mic on stage. I don't know. And I kind of like what we've been talking about with like the general family and the general audience. A big part of why my content was so successful at D23 last year was because the general Disney fan and just the general person knew that there was a Disney Parks presentation happening. Whereas if you just drop news, for example, at a media event, which I think is going to be happening this week, you don't have that reach. It might be seen by 50 or 60,000 people compared to 500 and 600,000. And I think that when Disney is really trying to get that stuff out there and try to make people aware of what they're doing, it just hurts them. So I am very disappointed by it. And for us, we're going to know everything happening regardless of whether it's dropped on social media or Disney Parks blog or D23. For us, it doesn't matter. But I want more people to see this stuff. And to the point where even I had someone comment on my post today that they didn't know that the Beacon Barrel was happening, and that was announced in 2023. So we know these things, but people don't. Like, so many people have no clue what's going on. So when Disney makes a big deal about it, I love that because I know that more people are going to see it. And when you have factual information out there, it helps put those negative narratives to sleep. And unfortunately, that's not what's happening here.
Yeah, do you want to go through it, Phil, or do you want to kind of do the things that kind of jump out at you on the schedule?
Yeah, maybe I could go through them quick, and if anybody wants to stop at anything. The only other comment I thought I'd make, I also thought it was interesting that they released kind of what's going to be live streamed and it seems kind of like the afternoons of both days, whereas in some ways the major sessions, like some of the longer sessions, like the Walt Disney Studios Showcase, which is the first one Saturday morning, and then the Disney Villains Icons of Evil, which is the first one Sunday morning, neither of those are going to be live streamed either. So that kind of surprised me a little bit. Those seem to be like ones that, like you said, you'd want to get that message out. That's what's going to come out of those sessions to as many people, but it won't be. Yeah. So so the sessions, the first one is the Walt Disney Studios Showcase. That's at 9:15 on Saturday morning. I did think this was interesting because we don't always get a studios or movies or film thing at Destination D23. So they almost like flip flop, like we're not getting parks, we're getting studios. So there could be some, parks news in here. Maybe the Mando and Grogu update they could tie into the movie coming out, or maybe even the Magic of Disney animation, because that's based on Once Upon a Studio or something. But I did think that was kind of interesting. Did you have a similar reaction, Drew and Jason?
Yeah, I mean, the my main reaction that it's an hour and 15 minutes long, so it's a long presentation. Yeah. So I think you're gonna, and it does say I'm looking at the D23 website, not the image that was kind of going around on Twitter. It's Disney's film studios. It's not Disney Studios, right? So that's like you said, Lucasfilm, Pixar, Disney, and any other of the smaller studios that they have underneath their umbrella. So I think it's just going to be like an hour long of like teasers, trailers, and like. I don't know if there's going to be any like people speaking or anything else like that, but it would also be kind of boring if they just showed you an hour long or hours worth of like random trailers too. So it should be interesting what they're going to show.
Yeah, my thought exactly, Phil, with Disney potentially maybe dropping a thing or two here when they're talking about these projects, because so many things are attached to the IP in these films these days, and they've been talking about that a lot, like getting Imagineering on board from the second these films hit theaters, and even before that to potentially bring them to the parks. So I don't know, part of me thinks that there's no chance we get a single drop of parks news during this presentation, because it's very clearly being presented as a Walt Disney Studios showcase. But again, at the same time, if they wanted to drop a small thing here or two, or maybe if they're going to talk about Avatar, Fire and Ash, drop a new piece of concept art for the Avatar ride, or I don't know. I think it would be cool to connect the parks to the studios, because that is quite literally what we're seeing. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I feel like there are a couple other panels at D23 where they could get away with talking about the parks there and leave the hour and 15 or 30 minutes to just the movies.
I'd be curious to see if they're waiting to like the purpose of the parks thing because they're going to sprinkle it throughout and they just want people to speculate. I don't know if that kind of backfires on them, but anybody that's going is not canceling at this point anyway, so I guess it doesn't really make a difference. The next two, Phil, I'll hop on this, is just, there's a D23 kind of thing for like 10 minutes. And then there's the Three Caballeros stuff for 10 minutes. And then there's the Untold Story of a Disney Legend, which actually might be kind of neat to look through, but it's, again, 25 minutes long.
Yeah, it's on Exitensio, which is like, he's a fascinating guy, all this stuff he contributes. So that should be a cool session.
Yeah, I mean, anytime there's a Disney Legend kind of story, I love listening to those things and how people have contributed to Disney. The one thing I don't understand is like Disney around the globe. There's that with like a bunch of other, like a country. Like the first one is India, and it's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So like, what do you think the purpose of this is, guys?
I think these are going to be pre-recorded videos that pretty much just allow them to set up for the next presentation and allow the presenters to get a sip of water.
Sure.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah, maybe, because the next one is basically the Broadway showcase. They're talking about Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and stuff like that, which is always interesting. But it's kind of, to me, it's like it's been done before. Like we've had a lot of this stuff before.
It's always gonna be cool for the people in the room to see these people perform and stuff like that. But there's not going to be like news or anything.
Yeah, there's performances and stuff like that. Then there's lunch, and then the afternoon programming is like a 25-minute Phineas and Ferb type of thing. I know they're launching a new season. I don't remember.
Well,
my kids watched that one.
There's 4 new episodes out so far, and my kids are hoping they will give the date on when the next 4 episodes will drop.
I think that's inevitable.
Phineas and Ferb is huge in my house, so my kids are very jealous that we'll be in the room with the creators of Phineas and Ferb, and they won't. So,
and then another video change for Japan for 5 minutes. And then it's looking back in the early 2000s era of Walt Disney Imagination Studios for a half hour. A lot of movies that no one watched, and they're going to bring them back up with Tarzan. A lot of people watch Atlantis, Treasure Planet, Brother Bear, some cult classics or cult favorites, but not really mainstream favorites from everybody else. Then there is a Leslie Iwerks production for The Happiest Place on Earth. Again, a lot of Disneyland stuff for their 70th. So it's basically going to be a 30-minute like commercial for Disneyland at that point. After
come buy our
break,
book.
yeah, exactly. So again, very interesting stuff, but like people are going to start getting antsy. Like, okay, we're seeing all these cool things. What are you going to tell us about the future, right? Because a lot of people
they could drop a little bit in that session about the projects that are currently underway at Disneyland. But like you said, I think it's going to be more about the history of the parks and like you said, Drew's selling her book.
Yeah, yep. and then a 45-minute segment on what's cooking with Disney Eats. I don't understand why they would put something in here, but like
I think different. That I wouldn't be shocked if we get a first like tease of the Tropical Americas food here, only because I don't know why I think back to this moment so much, but when Josh Tomorrow and Michael Hungen were on stage at D23 in Brazil, Josh casually said that he had already eaten some of the food they were testing for the Tropical Americas last year. And that seems like it's really, really far in advance. So I don't know, like I wouldn't be shocked if they talk a little bit about how they're kind of bringing the foods to these lands and how they're keeping them unique. Like, what are they going to do with Harryhausen's and how are they thinking about villains and all the different cuisines and how diverse it is? I wouldn't be shocked to see something there.
I know they've put out some long-form Imagineering content on YouTube that's strictly just for YouTube. And I think it was that platform that had a lot of like, they're talking about the food and bev and like how they were making beverages for Geo82 and around property. I think this might be some recycled content from that. It may be a different form factor. I don't think they're going to be just showing a video of that, but I think that's kind of the same type of thing. And then a 30-minute panel for celebrating 25 years of Emperor's New Groove. It's very strange that they're bringing that one out for for a half hour, as Drew laughs. And then then there's basically Typhoon Lagoon kind of party, which I think is kind of cool. So that's day one. Nothing here screams like, hey, we're going to talk about what's coming in the parks. We've got billions of dollars being, influx into the park all around you, but let's talk about Emperor's New Groove for a half hour.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of funny.
Mind-boggling.
Yes. So the next day, Phil, I don't know if you want to do day two?
Obviously, we got the welcome, and then I think the big one that people are speculating where they have Disney's villains, Icons of Evil, and that's the park where it mentions how Disney villains' experiences come to life around the world. Hear directly from the creative minds behind new projects and attractions, plus enjoy a special villains-themed medley to kick off Destination D23 Day 2. So, I mean, that's when they talk about new projects and attractions. That screams like we're going to get something about Villains Land, which I guess of all the projects, that's probably the one we know the least about. So even if we just get some new concept art or something like that and confirmation of what the attractions are or something like that, I think people would be excited for that. So this seems to be the most promising for getting some information. I'm assuming that you kind of feel the same way, Drew.
Yeah. Though I do think that a lot of people aren't realizing that this is talking about just projects in general, and I think some people are literally thinking this is 45 minutes of just Villains Land talk.
Oh, it's definitely not going to be that.
Yeah. Not that you guys get that, more of just like kind of what I'm seeing online with how people misread things these days, where they could easily talk about, Not So Scary Halloween Party, Oogie Boogie Bash, the Villain Show at Hollywood Studios. Like, they could talk about pretty much everything.
Yeah, I heard somebody speculate it could even be like some of the actors that are in the Villain Show in Hollywood Studios could be on stage for this and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever. But yeah, the main thing that I really want, that I don't think it'll happen this year because we're, not getting a panel for some reason. But I really just wanted like a piece of concept art confirming where Villains Land is going, because there's like one gravel laydown yard that's behind the berm, kind of directly behind Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which if Villains Land somehow happens to go on that plot of land as well, then this would be a massive land. But if they're just going to keep it inside of the railroad berm, it'll only be like 10, 11 acres. So I really just wanted like that aerial piece of concept art like we got for Cars last year, just confirming the footprint, so we kind of know exactly where everything's going to be.
Yep.
Which they could do at this point. Like,
the massive. I've always speculated that land will eventually be the next DVC resort kind of tucked back there. The major issue is the Big Thunder Mountain maintenance barn, which is gigantic, but like it's completely unthemed, and that's like right there. Like, so it'd be you'd have to hide that whole maintenance yard for Big Thunder Mountain for anything to go there to stay kind of have good show. But the only other thing I'd comment about Disney Villains, it's a 45-minute presentation, so you have maybe 5 or 10 minutes because they said there's a medley and there's like a nice little show, and they're gonna have a couple different things. So there could potentially be room for, because they talk about new projects and attractions, right? So there's definitely something there. And I hope we do get the concept art. So this is the only one that kind of looks promising. And they're saving maybe the best to kick off the second day, not just the first day, right? Keep everybody around and excited.
Then it goes into a panel with Jody Benson and Ron Clements, which is obviously always going to be fun. 20-minute session, but probably nothing major there. The next thing about the Three Caballeros, then a session with Roy P. Disney, which should be really cool to see him on stage talking about, the family and stuff like that. And it's moderated by Becky Klein, again, for kind of the hardcore fans about the history of the park and stuff.
25 minutes. Yeah, so it should be a decent amount of time.
Then part 3 of the Three Caballeros. So unless they're using these Three Caballeros to because that's South America, tropical Americas and stuff like that, I don't know. It's just interesting how they have these 3 sessions, but again, maybe they are just kind of for setting the stage and stuff like that.
They're only 10 minutes long each, so yeah.
Then we have a 50-minute session about the Disney archives. They always tend to have these at Destination D23, or any D23 event. It seems like they'll have something that goes through archives and kind of show you cool things and stuff like that. Then a Disney Channel trivia. Then another session on the Disney Channel, another around the world. Then Beyond the Spires, an insider look at Disney castles, which that's about 40 or 30 minutes long. So there could be something in there. I don't know if it's just going to go over the different castles or about how, Hong Kong updated their castle and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe they'll tell us they're going to paint the Walt Disney World castle back to gray or get rid of the pink or something. I don't know.
That's another one that stands out to me, because that's just kind of I think it's interesting to hear about the castles. There's a program on Disney Plus about the castles. I think it's on Disney Plus, and it's an interesting thing. But why are we bringing this up at Destination D23? And it's 30 minutes. Do you have any interpretation about this one other than it's just kind of random?
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're going to drop a final piece of concept art for the castle in Abu Dhabi to talk about where castles are headed, because that park still has a year and a half left of concept development to go through before it's going to be finalized, and we get a model probably in 2027, I'd imagine. But yeah, like you said, we could either get the Dreamlights coming back, castle being repainted, Abu Dhabi. Those are my only 3 predictions, even though I'm not really expecting much at this point.
Yeah, unless they save it for this session to do what the castle, Maleficent's castle, is going to be in Villain's Land or something. I don't know.
That would be cool, actually. Yeah. Because I think the exact wording was surprises beyond the spires. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. Very good point.
Then the last Disney Around the World of France, and then the last kind of major session is a Goofy movie, 30 standout years, with the director of the movie, Kevin Lima, and Bill Farmer, who's the voice of Goofy. Obviously that'll be fun. Everyone loves Goofy. Everyone's going to be wearing all their Goofy movie stuff, because then after that is the Disney's 80s and 90s celebration. Which is going to be great. Again, fun for everybody there, but not necessarily something that people.
How many times have you done the Goofy movie seminar, Phil? I feel like this is your 5th time in the last year.
Yeah, it might be something like that, between seeing the documentary at a D23 event, then seeing it again, then going to the D23 event, and having one of the directors from the documentary comment on our video and stuff like that. It's been fun. I feel a little connected to the movie, so it'll be good.
All right, so Joe, you obviously put out like we mentioned earlier, a prediction video. Everybody's put out a prediction video. Everybody's prediction video is probably going to be completely wrong.
Mine included.
Stuff. Yep. So we're going to go through. I'm going to ask you two questions for each one of these bullet points. We're going to go through. You organized your video by park, so that's what we're going to do. I'd like to ask you for each one. Will we find out more about this, or will we get this at Destination D23? And if no, how early will we get this? Is it now, or do we get it at D23 Expo next year? Right? Do we get it in between or at the Expo? Let's say.
Fire away.
So at Magic Kingdom, the first one was the Villain's Land official name, or in-story name, as you called it.
I think that'll happen now, honestly, at this D23.
I think that might be the only one from your list that we get here. Then the next one is Villain's Land ride system and some of the villains that take place in the story.
I don't know. Part of me wants to think we get confirmation of the 2 ride systems. It'd probably be one or the other though. I wouldn't expect, because I'm literally expecting like 10 of this 45 minutes to be Villains Lane.
Yeah. So again, you mentioned ride system is not like anything specific, but like a roller coaster or a dark ride or something else like that. I don't think we get any of those, but I do think we'll get hints of what kind of villains are going to be, even if it's like Maleficent and that's it. But we'll get some more story.
I think we'll get like I was going to say story about the land, like who are the villains?
I'd be fine with that.
Why are we invited there? Why are they inviting us in? That sort of thing. I think, but like kind of still at a high level.
So when do you think we'll get ride systems at D23 Expo next year?
I would say next. Yeah, I would say. I don't know. I feel like it'd make more sense to, at this point, if you're not doing a panel, just save it for next year and make it a massive thing. Because if Josh gets promoted to CEO, that would be the first parks presentation where we have a new parks chairman, and I think that'd be a big way to kind of start off good.
Once he becomes the CEO, he's just going to double the budget for Villains Land, because that's going to be basically how he leaves his mark on the Magic Kingdom, I think.
Yeah.
Two of these here, and I don't think we're going to get anything about with these with the panel listings here. But so let me know, when do you think we'll get these? So the Pistons Peak e-ticket name of the attraction.
Yeah, I was hoping Lightning McQueen's Off-Road Rally or something like that, like I mentioned, but at this point, there's no chance it gets named this year. I'd probably expect that at D23 next year.
And you don't think they're going to be like randomly dropping that in like the spring next year or something else, that with like a Disney Parks blog kind of announcement?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting them to confirm Piston Peak National Park already, so I don't know. I also wasn't expecting them to drop Avengers Infinity Defense and Stark Flight Lab last year, D23 either. So I love that they're doing names earlier than I'm expecting, because I think, again, that familiarizes the general fan base with the official name years before it even opens, which I love. But again,
or the random drop of the animation courtyard stuff that just came out of nowhere too.
Exactly.
Right? So
Yeah, at 10 a.m. on a random whatever day that was. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like they could make next year's D23 just as good as last year's if they really wanted to at this point. You're not talking about a lot of it.
Next one was Piston Peak second ride concept art or anything. I don't think we're getting that anytime soon at this point. Piston Peak or Villains Land full concept art together, because that's another thing that you really wanted to see.
I think that could come before, just because they're starting construction now. I don't know. I still have optimism that could come at this year's D23, because I wasn't expecting them to drop a Cars full aerial piece of art 2 days after D23 last year. At this point, there's no reason why they couldn't do that. Like, it's not revealing anything, even if it's just blue sky. Just give us the plot of land and where the boundaries are. That's all I'm asking for.
I don't know if we'll get that, but if we get like another Villains Land concept art, even if it's kind of blue sky-ish or whatever, it's not like exactly how it lays in land. I think we might get like peaks at the bottom of the art where it's a transition from Piston Peak into Villains, so we can kind of see how they kind of transition that, which I think would be
cool.
And I think, Joe, like you're saying, as long as we could see maybe where the berm or the train is behind it, so we can kind of position it, then I think people can work with it.
We will be analyzing all the pixels of that.
Yes, we will.
All right, the next one is Big Thunder Mountain new effects opening time frame. Do we think any drops at Big Thunder Mountain?
I wouldn't be shocked if we get Big Thunder Mountain news before D23, like this upcoming week, because I'm not going to be at this.
When all the media's there,
I'm not going to be at this media event this week. But I wouldn't be shocked if they use this media event as an opportunity to talk about the parks, because people are so upset about no parks panel. And what better thing to do at a media event than talk about what's coming in 2026? So literally anything on the 2026 calendar, I would not be shocked if that's days out at this point.
Do you think that they're going to be dropping a lot of the Piston Peak news at media events, so there's no risk of like booze or other nonsense at like a live show?
I don't think so, honestly, because I look back to Tiana's Bayou Adventure D23 in 2022, and when they had Anika and Noniuros on stage and they gave everyone little handkerchief things to wave around, and people were cheering. I just feel like, again, it's a very vocal group online that is never going to do in person. They just like the keyboard warrior. I don't know. I just don't see it happening, and just the fact that Disney's kind of made it clear that this is a national park and Cars is kind of attached, rather than Cars in national park. It's the other way around of what people are saying. Which, again, I could talk about this for a while, but not to go off topic here. If I was Disney, I would have presented it as a national park featuring Cars, not Cars in Frontierland, but I digress.
Yes. You also mentioned some Buzz Lightyear news. Do you think they'll have any of like some like the targets set up there? Because you mentioned the animatronic first look, which I think is kind of bold prediction.
It is. I don't know.
Do you have anything Buzz Lightyear there?
I wouldn't. Yeah, if we get another little tease of Buzz Lightyear, or even if there's nothing new for Buzz Lightyear, but we see some of the people at the media event this week playing around with the blasters in person again, because only a few people got to do it in March, that'd be awesome. I'd love it for those people.
I was kind of hoping they might have that set up like in the hallways or in an area.
Yeah,
that'd be cool for the attendees
that'd be really cool
or something like that.
Yep.
I know I went to the one 4 years ago and they had like the Guardians of the Galaxy ride vehicle there and stuff. So if they had something like that for Buzz, I think that'd be cool.
Agreed.
You had some shockers, but you don't expect this to happen. But you'd be shocked. You said Stitch's Great Escape or Moana Adventureland. That to me, that's always like D23 Expo type stuff. So
no chance.
Again, you were saying that's like very small chance, but something's there. At Epcot, you mentioned updates for Spaceship Earth and Figment. Do you think that's coming? And if not, will we hear about it before the expo?
I wouldn't be shocked if we got something for Epcot before D23 next year, just like randomly out of nowhere. Because like you said, we've seen those things happen. But I don't know what it would be at this point. Like, there's been so many things that I've heard for Epcot, and I just feel like no one knows at this point. It's just people, like, there are some people who know things, and there's some people who just speculate and claim they know. So at this D23, I don't think we're going to get any mention of Epcot.
Do you think that, I mean, because Spaceship Earth's going down for their normal like maintenance run, was it in the first quarter next year, Phil? I forget.
No, it's going down
this month,
this month because it'll be
I'm
close when I'm
thinking
there. My wife was a little.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
we won't get to ride it.
So yeah, I guess that has to go up and go down and then come back up again before we do anything about the next version of Spaceship Earth, because I don't think they want people confused, like, oh, it's coming next month or currently or whatever. So I
part
think
of me. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not sorry to cut you off, but part of me wonders if this routine refurbishment is giving the Imagineers a chance to look at the ride while it's down, and we don't know. Like a silent plan.
I think they do that anyway, just kind of see the status of the attractions. But I think they might be like, what do we really need to do? Put a real budget behind that so we can figure out if we can mention it at D23. Let's say it costs $100 million to do everything. They're not going to be like, maybe we could push this off. But if it's cheaper and they can get away with some things, maybe it comes earlier because they have the budget for it, type of thing.
Yeah.
At Hollywood Studios, do you think we'll get the Rock and Roller Coaster Muppet updates that you mentioned?
I think we'll get those at the media event. I think we'll get our first piece of concept. If I had to guess, I don't know when this is going to go up, but I'd guess that it could be like right after this airs that we get our first look at the Muppets or a first artist that's going to be featured on the ride.
I think that's coming soon. They teased it already with like Fozzie Bear.
Exactly.
Like doing the jokes and stuff. I think they're getting people primed for some news for that coming.
Yeah.
Like you said, this week or something. Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, again, just pop into my mind, a lot of the things that they're doing, they're not, other than the expo where they have millions of people watching in there and all this other stuff, all the other things that aren't like major announcements, they're ramping it up through social media and their blog and anywhere that they put social media, honestly. So we'll get little pieces here. Do we think we get anything about Muppets Vision 3D, about where it's going to come? I think they're just going to let that one lie for a while, in my opinion.
And unfortunately, I feel like the longer they wait, the better they look from a PR move. Like if it's like, oh, we're bringing it back. If they did it now, it wouldn't have as much of an impact as 3 years from now when people truly miss it and they're like longing for it. So yeah, I don't think so now.
Do you think we'll get anything the Monsters Inc. The show details or anything else like that, or is that another expo? Or is that a random drop?
I feel like that'd be a Parks blog article at 10 a.m. where they just casually drop a piece of concept art saying the monsters are moving in, and it's like, whoa, where'd this come from?
And they're rehearsing right now, or something like that, right? Yeah. Anything about confirming using the animatronics from Disneyland coming over? I don't think we're going to get those details at this point.
I think it'll happen, but not now.
Do you think we'll get the last one was about concept art or anything else, but about, you mentioned like a near miss inside the door coaster and stuff like that. Do you think we'll get any new concept art for Monsters Inc?
Not now.
The expo. No, I don't think so.
But I do like this is something again like I talked about earlier with Disney teasing things that no one's talking about. Like if you look at that concept model, the fact that there's like cutouts in the factory, like the only thing that would make sense in the story is that a door flies at us, we miss it, and as a result we go through a door, enter a different world. It's a show scene with something there, and we fly back. And part of me wonders, I don't think this would happen, but part of me wonders if that other world we'd be entering is the world of the Muppets. But at the same time, I don't think that would happen because the Muppets are going to have their own coaster next door. Or maybe it's like the Abominable Snowman where we're going into like the ice world and we fly back. It's going to be, I think that would be one of the coolest moments on any Disney attraction ever, and I think it's going to happen. but we'll see.
What if we because we're right next to it? What if they go through like Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and come back out?
Yeah, literally any potential here. That's the cool thing. Even if it's like a 15-second scene, it would just be so cool to leave.
Cool if you go through one door, and maybe it is something a little bit more like in the monsters world, like the Abominable Snowman or something. But it'd be cool if you pass by and other doors are open, and you can kind of like see into like just a screen or something.
Yeah,
and those are kind of Easter eggy things like Muppets or something like that.
Yeah, because they actually have a scene like that in Ride and Go Seek in Tokyo, where they use the glass to make it look like it's a door. Yeah, that'd be. This coaster's gonna be absurd. I'm super pumped, but I'm not expecting it now.
I mean, I think they'd be smart now that we're just speculating on what's inside that big box. Like, if you have all the doors and they have, let's say, there's 30 different doors that we can see with a screen behind them. So now what they could do is they could build like 100 different scenes and they randomly play as you go by. So, like, they could throw Easter eggs all over the place. They'd be like a Muppets or anything that we've been talking about. They can have some like really cool, like, Mickey and Minnie or like behind that door. What's all that about? Like, right? That type of thing. I think that'd be really cool. All right, moving on to Animal Kingdom. Do we get any big details for Tropical America at all? Do you think they're going to be talking about it at all, or
part of me at this point feels like they might just do a We Call It Imagineering episode on the Tropical Americas, and that's the way that we get details.
Yeah,
like We Call It Imagineering could be used so much further than what they're doing. And like I understand it's still newer and that they're still trying to see what people react to, but these YouTube videos are getting over 100,000 views every time, and there's even more views of people resharing that content on social media just by clipping it like I do and Scott and people on Instagram and all that stuff. But I would love a episode of We Call It Imagineering specifically on the Tropical Americas once Encanto goes vertical, have the Imagineers there in the morning with the beam going up and then talk about it as a segue. I think I would prefer that over D23, honestly.
Yeah, because I think at something like this, it'll be just like, here's more concept art, but like the permits already show where everything is. Like, how much more concept art can you actually show, right? Until you actually have them kind of doing like they did Test Track. They're walking like behind the scenes. You kind of see something in the background for like 3 frames, and as you go through that type of thing. So I'm going to skip all the other Tropical America stuff. You mentioned the Indiana Jones storyline. I thought it'd be really cool if they had like a more civilian version of the Mayan history lecture that Joe Rohde had a bunch of months ago that Len talked about that he sat in, but I don't see any of that anywhere on the program.
No, and
I think that would have been a slam dunk in my opinion.
That would have been so much better than these 3 Caballeros things or something that's just a waste of time. Like, imagine Joe Rohde coming on stage just to talk about Animal Kingdom, even if nothing's new revealed. That's worth a ticket.
Yeah, 100%.
Whatever.
You also talked about swapping the Monsters, Inc. and Tropical America opening time frames from 27 and 28 and swapping around. Are you still holding on to that, or
I don't know. Like, I want to be very clear that that's just my speculation. Like, I still expect that Disney is going to get this open in 2027, just because Animal Kingdom needs that capacity. But if 100%. Some major, I don't think there's going to be a major like delay here, just because it's not like a groundbreaking ride system. Like, it's just an Encanto dark ride. I think we'll see Encanto open in fall of 2027 at this point. So I don't think it's going to happen, but it's whenever something like that crosses my mind, I just throw it out there to cover all my bases.
I was wondering too, though, just when you see the pace, and I know construction, like you can't always tell the real pace of things in that, but it seemed like once they started on Monsters, they were going like full bore. Whereas Tropical Americas kind of seemed a little static for a while. Now it seems like they're a little bit more, the retaining walls coming down and stuff. But I was like, oh, well, maybe they're like switching their priorities because they're like, oh, everyone's upset about Muppets. Let's get this one done first or something. I don't know. But maybe they'll both open up in 2027 or something.
They could.
Yeah. Because you never know, like for like in the world of construction and stuff like that, because I have some experience in that. For example, and I don't know anything, this is just like random things, but like taking down a retaining wall, once you get it complete, sometimes you have to get like inspectors to come out and take a look at it, make sure you did it the right way. And if that inspector was like found something wrong, and then they had to fix like all that type of stuff. It's like general construction type of stuff with like permitting and inspection before you can get to the next step. Maybe a delay hit, and then you couldn't do anything for 2 weeks or something else like that. So I think things like that could actually happen. But I think once everything, the ground is already prepped, all the infrastructure is there, and they just actually start putting cement in the ground for that foundation, I think it goes up like super quick.
Yeah.
Honestly.
If I had to take a guess, I think we see Encanto go vertical by Halloween at this point. Like, I think we're going to see the utility work and, like you said, all the the rebar and the ground foundation. So I'm hoping it's by Halloween.
I would have to guess that cement starts getting put down sometime in September.
Yeah, agreed.
Right.
And if it goes vertical after October 1st, that'd be the new fiscal year. So like that makes sense from a budgetary standpoint too. But we'll see.
Sure.
I think it'll be soon.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so those are all your predictions. I know our friend Matt and Scott Gustin had a podcast, was like a week and a half ago, and Matt had a much more expansive list with Scott, and I just chuckled. Scott's going, yeah, that has 0% chance to go, 10% chance, and even your list here, Drew, was, I don't want to say tame, but like relatively safe, what people would expect to happen. Because I always said, like, I think that if we get any updates at Destination D23, it would be more of like updating on existing known things with maybe one or two surprises. Yep. So who knows? Yeah. Maybe we'll get a surprise, but the parks, the programming doesn't give us any room for that. All right, I want to get
not to cut you off. I'm just hoping that I'm hoping those surprises come this week rather than at D23.
Yeah,
like
that's what it's kind of sounding like. That.
Yeah, I think this media event's gonna have something that we aren't expecting, whether it's Muppets or Rockin' or Buzz, Big Thunder or something. I think this week will be pretty fun.
Yep, and honestly, this schedule is kind of what Destination D23 used to be years ago.
Yeah.
It was much more like for the hardcore fan about the history and things like that. Yep. It's just the last two, they did have a parks panel and they kind of pushed this as like the biggest ever and stuff. So I think expectations.
Yeah, that's where my frustrations lie. Is they're making so much more money by putting this at Coronado and they're not delivering more. And I feel like that's a pretty scummy thing to do. But whatever.
But again, you got to think from some marketing person's perspective. A lot of people, a lot of actors, a lot of entertainment people, a lot of talent coming in, putting on all their different shows and stuff like that. So maybe that's why they thought it was the biggest, because you're going to have Jodie Benson there. She's probably going to sing something. Who knows? And then they got the Broadway stuff. Anyway, I digress. And they're having parties and concerts, which seems bigger, but like, we're all park nerds, so we all wanted to know everything about like all the other stuff. So maybe,
and we'll see what the swag bag is. Maybe they'll.
There you go. There you go.
New concept art on a piece of paper.
Yeah, hiding in there. That's where it all comes from. So I want to go to the active construction, Drew, since you're intimately familiar with everything that's going along the property. Every week we usually do a construction update from all the different parks. There really isn't any construction updates this week, except for like Bio Reconstruct dropped a whole bunch of different pictures that are pretty interesting. We mentioned earlier, we saw the retaining wall coming down in Tropical Americas. Like that's all flat ground land at this point. And Drew, something that you've been watching, the Rivers Americas largely drained at this point. I think I just saw a picture where it's completely drained. They had actually trucks in the river. Do you have any speculation on when work on the island is actually going to start? Like the trees come down and they're like bulldozing and stuff like that.
I'm going to compare it to Muppets Courtyard because that's the most recent thing we saw. Muppets Courtyard took 2 months to take down the Stage 1 company store, and Tom Sawyer Island in Rivers America closed 5 weeks ago. And if you look at Bio's picture, there actually was a tractor like where the river water used to be. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like they were getting all of the dirt and kind of the leftover stuff like to kind of clear it out completely. And I think all of the Native American animatronics have been removed too from the little Indian village back by where the train passed. I would say within a month we see trees going down. I think they're getting close.
All right, Phil, what do you think happens first? Demo on the island or the riverboat track coming up?
I think they start working on the island first before but start to take some stuff down. And then the track will come up before they flatten everything. But
yeah, I think before any major demo happens, other than stuff that you could do with your hand and carry out or put on a cart, I think that rail has to go so they could have like vehicles actually drive and not have to bump over it, that type of thing. So that's my guess. The next one is the infrastructure for the door coasters going in. There's some drainage and some other digging around. I mean, they're moving pretty quickly to get that thing done. I'm very impressed that they cut out an exact hole for the building in the parking lot. I don't think anybody was like, what is going on here? But I don't know. Maybe they did that just for Bio Reconstruct. So I don't know. So, I mean, you were mentioning that you're all over the place. Then we were talking about that earlier. Is there one project that you're focusing on more than any of the other ones?
I mean, I've wanted to focus on Encanto, but the Boneyard's closing in 2 weeks, and then I won't be able to see anything. So I don't think I'm gonna ever be able to document anything, like because
you can't see anything.
Yeah, like Dino Land's gonna be blocked off. The Monsters Coaster, you can't go back there. It's all backstage. Like Disney wouldn't want me posting pictures back there. Looking at Magic Kingdom, I think it's gonna be years before those rockwork formations really get to the point before they go over the walls.
Yeah.
It's gonna be I think a good 12 to 18 months before I really can get to do what I want to do.
So what are you most excited about being on property, like documenting all this stuff? What has your juices flowing?
Just like walking in the park knowing that something's happening is the thing that I love. And like even though Epcot doesn't have anything happening, I just love Test Track. So like just the fact that that's there. I just love it's funny because like I've always said that I'm more connected to Disney's new projects than Disney's original projects.
Sure.
Like I don't know, like so many people find the diehard attachment to like Pirates of the Caribbean or Haunted Mansion, for example, and like I like those attractions, but if they close tomorrow, I would not be sad. I know that might sound insane for a diehard Disney Parks fan to say, but I've always been attached to the new construction, the new technology, the new developments. And
that's how I've always been. Like I'm
Yeah.
always excited about the new stuff, right?
Yep.
There's very few attractions I'd get upset if they left, but I'm like I've been on all of those a million times.
Yeah.
So I'm good with what comes next. So random question, since you spoke about Epcot just a second ago.
Yep.
Do you think by the D23 Expo next year, the Epcot ground lights will be fixed or replaced?
No. I have absolutely no hope for that project at this point. I have one of the most embarrassing things ever. I don't understand how you don't know how to install ground lights. Like
that's crazy.
Like I don't want to ever claim to be like a construction know-it-all, but at the same time, it's lights. Like it's pretty pathetic, honestly. And it's funny because like I saw that little like sometimes people on Twitter will make like those posts to get engagement, and it was "Have you ever been scammed before?" And I posted the Epcot concept art from 2019 because it's I don't know like we talked about, the parks were closed for 14 months and, Disneyland was closed for 14 months and there was budget issues with COVID, but like Epcot is just bad. Like, I don't know what you guys think of Luminous, but I don't like Luminous at all personally.
So you guys can go hang out.
Yeah,
and
I've been on the
record
record for saying I'm not a fan. I like the last couple minutes of it, and I like the
Yeah.
exit music. And
Yes,
that's
yeah.
about it.
It's funny you say that. I love the intro. I love the exit, and like I said, I love I just like there's points in Luminous where I just want to walk away. I haven't seen that show in over a year. I just do not like it at all.
See, I don't like a lot of the middle music, but I love the pyro and the effects that are going on.
The pyro's great, yeah.
If you could just put on that show with just some background music, I would
put the
love watching
Illuminations music over it.
Yeah.
it doesn't
Now you're talking.
it doesn't have to sync, but I do love the exit park music. I sing that all the way out. I did that when I was there. Though I have to say, my mother saw that Luminous for the first time last month, and she had tears in her eyes with part of the part. Like just like the life cycle of like you lose somebody and there's a rebirth and all this other type of stuff like that. That really hit her home. So maybe it's not for us, but
that's fair.
There is an audience somewhere, right? So
yeah, I would love to know what the general rating that Disney has with their internal data is for Luminous, because like I know it's a hot take, but I loved Harmonious. Like Harmonious was
I loved Harmonious too.
Yeah, like Harmonious was my happily ever after. How people feel about happily ever after is how I felt about Harmonious. And with how much Disney in recent years has kind of pushed inclusivity, I think Harmonious was the most naturally inclusive thing that they've ever done. And it just got ripped out of the park. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you guys really don't care about what you say.
I mean, like, I would have loved. I mean, I think you could do Harmonious as a tag with the current infrastructure and just have the songs.
Yeah.
I love the show. The only issue is the obvious one. It's like you couldn't watch the show from like two different places essentially.
Yep.
And that's the only thing that really irritated me about the show. But if they could have somehow got rid of that center part and redo it, I think that's.
But if you did the Harmonious show with the new infrastructure, that'd be
perfection.
That would work.
Why not?
But I mean, there's parts of Epcot. I like the new central area, how there's seating areas and you can walk around and stuff like that. But yeah, like you feel like they did it on the cheap a bit with some of the furniture and like they can't get the ground lights working and stuff. And that stuff annoys me more than not agreeing with a design choice or something like that.
Yeah,
because it's like you're making all these billions and billions of dollars. Like if it takes a little more than you want to spend to fix the ground lights, fix the ground lights.
That, to me, like I was there a week after it all debuted and opened and the walls came down. And that's one of my favorite parts of on property is being there at night when the ground lights were working and they had the music is awesome. Spaceship Earth is up and running. Because I was there in December, right? So it got dark early. It was cooler. So it's not like the sun's not beating on you and everything else like that. So I always loved that section of the park. And you talk about the concept art about being scammed. I have this conversation all the time. You had the what is it? The festival center that was kind of elevated, whatever. I thought that would have been the biggest mistake ever built at Epcot because here's a couple different reasons. One, none of us could afford to ever go up there unless you're part of a media event, right? Because it was going to be like a $300 like fireworks show.
Yeah,
you can
that's fair.
Or corporate events or whatever. Yep.
It would have been a traffic nightmare navigating around that thing. It would cause so many different traffic jams, and you know that the underside of that thing would have been disgusting and dirty after like the third month because it was 30 feet above the air, and you know all the stuff that's growing under there. It's kind of like the Tron lights like a run when you kind of look at the so I thought the building looked gorgeous, and it gives like Epcot that future. Because I know why people were hyped about it, but like in reality, I think it would have been a nightmare, especially since the view
I worried about the reality of it too. Like it looked really cool in concept and like this great architectural piece. I did worry that the reality would not have lived up to the concept art.
I mean, just imagine walking up from World Showcase towards Spaceship Earth. It would completely block the view of Spaceship Earth from anywhere in World Showcase, most likely. As you get close to the top part of World Showcase, not obviously you probably could have seen it from like Japan or the American Pavilion. But that being said, Drew, we really appreciate you having on. Anything you want to announce? Any projects that you're working on? Anything forthcoming? Anything to look out for? Where can they find you on the internets?
Twitter, I mean, we've talked a lot about D23, and I guess I'll be sharing, a lot of updates from D23. So if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, feel free. And I've been uploading more on YouTube, so I'll have 3 videos out on YouTube before D23. So
okay,
that's really all I have to plug. I just like creating, so I don't need to push it too much.
YouTube, if you're on YouTube, the links to all of your socials and YouTube channels will be below, so you can check those out. Reminder for our social media accounts: Phil is amazing on all of them. Twitter, Insta, Facebook, YouTube, and Blue Sky at the DBC Pod. And for the DBC engagement for the next 2 weeks, as we kind of go through all the Destination D23 stuff, what are your Destination D23 predictions? Hop on Discord now and drop them in the channel. Anything else you want to add, Phil, before we head out of here?
No, you hit it up. Just hopefully I'll see Drew when I'm down there for
absolutely
Destination D23. So
no doubt.
Hook up then again.
All right. So that being said, we'll see everybody next week, and have a good one.